What's up, guys? Welcome back to G-Dub's Point of View podcast. I appreciate you guys being patient with me. I know it's been a few days since I put up another one, but I had to see a few movies first, as of course you can see by the title of this one. It's going to be my June movies, and then plus at the end we're going to discuss my top 10 of the year so far that I've seen. I want to thank everybody again for the support on everything. I saw that my number one podcast about the G1 Climax is already over 100 views, which is awesome, so thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And there's a little special message there at the end for all of my wrestling fans. I'll definitely be getting back into the wrestling scene. So let's go ahead and get started because I think it was 7. Yeah, I count 7 movies this month. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one I saw this month was Hotel Artemis. Now, this movie wasn't promoted at all. I saw it by chance by checking out the movies subreddit over on, I guess it was back in March, and it was like the top post on the Reddit was the Hotel Artemis trailer, and I saw it. I'm like, wow, this movie looks sick. You know, Jodie Foster's making a return to her acting, and Dave Bautista's in it, and a really good role for him, and Sterling K. Brown, who's a great guy, is like the main protagonist. Like, man, this movie looks great. It's and it's already out of theaters, even though it came out at the beginning of June. It's pretty disappointing because a lot of what the trailer shows you, it promises you like it's kind of like a John Wick style with, you know, this hotel that treats criminals, and then someone's trying to bust in, and kind of like the hotel situation in John Wick. But really, the stuff you see in the trailer, that's a lot of what the only action is. There's really not much more. A lot of it just has to do with sitting around and you know, kind of just figuring out, you know, who's my friend, you know, who's doing this, who's got this information, and that's like about an hour of the movie when it's only, you know, an hour and 40 minutes or whatever, hour and a half. So it was pretty disappointing. The saving points, of course, are Jodie Foster is really, really good as the nurse. Dave Bautista is phenomenal. I mean, it's a perfect character for him. He plays off Jodie Foster really well, and he gets to be this big badass, and get to actually use his tattoos for once instead of covering them up. And then Sterling K. Brown does a great job as the protagonist, but the girl, I forget her name. She plays all the foreign like villains essentially. She did okay, but you know, she could have done better. They always like to give her really weird accents in her roles, which I think kind of limits her. I think she could do better if you just gave her a normal accent. And then Charlie Day was fucking annoying. I did not like his character at all. I thought it took away from the movie a lot. He basically played, if you took his character in Pacific Rim and made him just like even more annoying and could cuss, that's what his character was. So unless you're like a super big like Jodie Foster or Sterling K. Brown or Dave Bautista fan, or you had seen the concept and kind of thought about it, I would pass. I don't think it's worth buying when it comes out on DVD. Now, if it comes on for free somewhere, or somehow ends up on Netflix or something like that, then it's probably okay to check out because it's not too long of a movie. But as far as spending money on it, I probably wouldn't. I mean, I saw it the one time, and I'm probably not gonna, you know, see it ever again, more than likely. Let's see. So my next movie I saw was Upgrade. This is a movie that was in the trailers for Quiet Place, and it really, like, I had seen that trailer at Quiet Place. I'm like, wow, this movie looks really interesting. And then I went online and saw like the Red Band trailer, the R-rated trailer, and I'm like, I have to see this movie. And I was worried for a while because it was a limited release. So I was looking all around like, oh god, you know, okay, I can go here and I can see it, you know, but it's like a 40-minute drive, but you know, I can go to this mall and whatnot. So I was trying to figure out a way to go see it, and then it ends up like a day before like the reset of all the movie schedules for my local one. It's like, oh yeah, we're playing this. It's like, oh, perfect. So I saw it like 2 weeks after it came out, and I loved it. I really thought the concept was interesting, about it being this chip that I'm trying not to spoil this movie too much because I really think this is a good watch. But the concept of it being like, you know, a futuristic world that they don't explain, they just kind of throw you into it of, you know, here's this, there's self-driving cars and all this kind of stuff. and this kid comes along with this chip and can fix him from being paralyzed, and he all of a sudden he can walk again, and it talks to him, and he starts hunting down the people that are responsible. It's of course it's like a John Wick type concept. I think this is a Blumhouse movie, which is really low budget, and they're used to horror stuff. They're not really a big action movie company. I think they do a really good job here. I think it's the action sequences when they're going are really good. The way the camera works, was there's one part in the trailer where as he like rises up to face someone, like the camera tilts with him. I thought it was a really unique way to shoot that. I thought it was really well done. Logan Marshall Green, who's the guy that plays in this movie, he's the main character. He does a really good job. I mean, at first you look at him, you're like, oh yeah, that's just like generic Walmart brand Tom Hardy. But he does enough in this movie to now I know who he is. He's really good at playing this sympathetic character while balancing like this secret life that he's living, because he's trying to hide the fact that he can walk again. But wherever he's initially paralyzed, he's really good at like drawing on the emotions. You actually feel really bad for him. And the movie paces really well. I think it was just long enough. I think it was a good length. And then the big twist at the end I thought was really interesting, and the big like lesson here of like what makes you human was actually, I think, effectively done for the first time, because I think there's some of those movies that have that what makes us human kind of mentality and what they want to show you in the movie. I don't think it works too well. This one I think pulled it off really effectively. And the big twist at the end, the ending sequences are really good. I thought it was really well done. So if you're a Blumhouse fan, this is definitely a must watch. If you like really gritty action, because it's R-rated, and it is R-rated. If you like gritty action, this is really good. I'm definitely gonna watch it again when it comes out. And I would recommend buying it. If you're not a super action person, or you don't like all the gritty stuff, I would, you could probably wait till it comes. I would definitely recommend checking it out when it comes out, though, because I don't think I would pass up on this again. Let's see, the next one I saw, I believe, was Incredibles 2. Of course, Incredibles 2, it's the 14-year wait. I thought it was probably the best sequel they could put out. Having the emphasis be on Miss Incredible was, I think, perfectly timed, because I know that apparently when they started making this movie, that was the whole premise. And then of course now with all of the movements that are going on socially, it ended up at the right time. But I think that was always the goal, was to have her be the focus of the next one. I'm trying to think. I liked the beginning, because it really picks up like a half hour after the first one, and it's interviewing some kid that was involved in the whole mole rat or whatever he's called situation at the soccer stadium, or the track stadium that you see at the end of the first one. And so obviously it cuts into that happening in the beginning of the second one, and they deal with him. The only thing is, it kind of a little spoiler here, you see him at the beginning, and then you don't see that villain ever again. They don't get rid of him, he escapes, and then you don't see him for the rest of the movie. Of course, there's the little post-credit teaser or mid-credit teaser of he's possibly still out there, but it's not like, it's not a big deal, and it's like, well, he was the big villain, and then of course he's not. And, it's kind of a little disappointing for fans of the original to not really see him get dealt with, and he's in there for a total of 10 minutes. But I thought the actual story that played out was really good, with having this company come in and want to be the big saviors of superheroes, and wanting to put superheroes back in the spotlight, and then it kind of backfires a little bit, and having the big twist with who's the big villain, the screenslaver, which you can see in the trailer. The big twist of that you can kind of see coming by the way people are acting. Of course, it all works out in the end because it's a kids movie. But I really, and I think they set up well for a third movie. I don't have a lot to say about this movie because I just really enjoyed it front to back. I've waited so long for it because I saw the original as a kid. This is a must watch. I don't have, there's really nothing else to say. This is a must watch movie. It's still out in theaters. Go see it. Buy it on DVD when it comes out. And hopefully that Incredibles 3 won't take another 14 years. Alright, so the next movie was Ocean's 8. I am not an Ocean's fan. I didn't watch any of the original Ocean's movies. So I knew what they were, these heist movies and whatnot, but I hadn't seen any of them, so I didn't really know any of the background information. So I went to this. My dad was actually the one that really wanted to go see this movie. So I'm like, okay, yeah. Of course, I have a movie subscription service, so I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not paying money for it, so I'll go see it. I really enjoyed it. The girls that are in the movie, because of course it's the 7 girls. It's 8. There's 8 of them. It's in the title. And they all look like they're having a blast just shooting the movie. You can really tell just by chemistry and some of the set pieces at the end where they're all together in like one room and they're all laughing and talking about things after the heist. It's like you can really tell they had a lot of fun making this movie, and it shows in their acting because the chemistry between all of these ladies is on point. Between any pairing, any group, they're all the chemistry is really well done, and you can tell. I mean, they all must have been really good friends or became good friends on set because they are really good at their jobs, or a combination of all of that. Because they make the movie really fun. Of course, the plot's a little messy. It takes a little while to get going, but once they hit the actual planning the heist part into the heist, it's really entertaining. It's really well done. I liked the double twist because one of the twists you can see coming a mile away. I guess I'll go ahead and spoil it. So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie yet, just kind of skip forward a little bit. Of course, the big twist, the main twist is Anne Hathaway's character is involved in the heist somehow, which is the person they're stealing the necklace from, which is the one you can see coming from a mile away. Once they reveal the trailer and you realize there's 7 girls and it's called Ocean's 8 and they're robbing Anne Hathaway, who's a big name, you're like, okay, she's probably the 8th person, which of course is the case. But the secondary twist of this whole necklace thing that they were stealing was like a big distraction. Of course, that was the prize was the big distraction, and then they had this whole other side plan for stealing all this other jewelry in like a side room. And so they ended up, instead of each of them having $10 million, they each had like $40 million at the end of it, which is, I mean, it was so well done and something you couldn't see coming, except for one little tease that they bring it back together at the end when they're showing them actually doing that heist. Thought it was really well done. I loved it because I couldn't see it coming. It's one of the few twists you can't see coming nowadays. So I really enjoyed it. If you're a fan of the Ocean's movies, I think this is a really good addition. I think if you're also a fan of any of these actresses, I think it's a really good movie. I think Helena Bonham Carter actually did really well. She's playing a weird character because of course she is, but this is a pretty normalized character for her. And I think she's really good at playing a little bit more normal character. And then of course Sandra Bullock and Anne Hathaway are great. But yeah, I definitely recommend. I think it's still in theaters. Go see it. When it comes on DVD, see it. I definitely would look into watching it. Let's see. I've got 3 more movies. So the next movie I saw was American Animals. Now I know this wasn't out for most people. I saw this towards the end of the month. I had seen it's run by, or it's like a limited thing, limited release, that kind of deal. And I had no idea what it was going into it. I just knew it was a heist movie. And to see what it actually became, and I think that I really benefited from that, was going into it not knowing what it was, apart from just the general concept of it being a heist movie. Because I went into it and all of a sudden it turns into a half movie, half documentary about a specific instance, a specific true story. I was kind of blown away by it. The way it was shot was really well done. There's a specific sequence where they're talking with the real guys that were involved with it and the actors, and the actors pull up at a gas station and one of them goes in to do something that cuts back to the car, and the guy in the driver's seat's one of the actors, and then the guy in the passenger seat now is the real person that actor in the car is playing, and then they actually have a conversation. Well, the one guy asks, like, oh, did you remember it this way? And the real guy says, well, if Steven remembers it this way, we'll go with it. I'm like, that's such a unique way to shoot this. That hasn't really been done before in a documentary. And I think it's one of the few documentaries that doesn't really, it humanizes them, for sure. I mean, that was kind of the premise of it. But it doesn't excuse what they've done. It really shows, the real consequences of doing anything like this. And of course, they all did jail time for it. It's not like this heist movie where everyone got away and they're coming back to talk about it. I mean, they did jail time for it. And to see kind of the how it reflects on them and how they feel about it, and mixed in with actually seeing it as it probably really did happen, because they had everybody involved in it on the documentary to probably pitch in what happened. Is just, I was blown away. And you'll see my top 10 list, I really was blown away. Whenever this comes out, because it might still be out in theaters, depending, because I know it came out pretty late in June. Go see it. I just go to it with an open mind, and you'll be blown away like I was. And I probably end up purchasing this when it comes out on DVD or something. Hopefully it does. It doesn't go like straight to online streaming or something, because it's well worth the money. But because I really want to see it again and really pick up on some things maybe I didn't pick up the first time around. All right, so the next movie I saw was Jurassic World. Jurassic World 2. Man, I think what this movie really shows is what a good director can do with a terrible script and a terrible story. Because a lot of the way the film is shot is really well done. A lot of the sequences and the tracking sequences and the big wide shots are so good, but there's few and far between because it's such a rough movie. The whole premise of, well, this is probably going to be spoiler territory for people that haven't seen it yet. The whole start of it where they're going to rescue these animals, but how they recruit Bryce Dallas Howard's character and Chris Pratt's character is terrible. It's basically it's like, well, you ran the park, so the island, like, and then, oh, we need to get this one raptor, so you used to date the one guy that knew how to that was friends with the raptor. It's like you could have come up with something better as to how to get them back on into the hunt, so to speak. And of course the twist is pretty easy to see, of the guy running the old man's estate being in control and behind all of the selling of the dinosaurs and whatnot. It's just not well done. I think Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard actually really saved the movie for being just god awful. I feel bad for them because it's such a big budget movie and has so much attention to it that it's just not, and it's not good. It's pretty boring. I had to see it twice as well because I went with a buddy on release night, and then I went and saw it again with my family like a week later, and it's like, man, it was so painful seeing it the second time. I mean, the ending, of course, with them all escaping and actually starting Jurassic World for the third movie, I think is okay. I think you could have had a better explanation. Also, because they get released by the girl who ends up being a genetic copy of the old man's daughter, I think she was pretty lacking. She annoyed the shit out of me for most of the movie. She was good early on, like when you first get introduced to her and everything, and she was good. and then once she gets started, hunting down. She gets hunted down by the raptor after she escapes through the museum part, and it's like the director or whatever the screenplay called for said, okay, every time we cut, you need to scream, because she's getting chased by this raptor. There's no one else in the house, and she's screaming at every single hallway turn possible. Like, you don't need that. Like, it's just annoying. Like, the raptor, like, these things are supposed to look scary, and they don't, because of course it's like some of the sequences with, like, or especially the first part with the lightning flashes and you can see the dinosaurs, that's scary. But in this house where you can see it running, the effect kind of wears off, and her just constantly screaming at every single camera cut was just wore on me. And then her all of a sudden deciding, yeah, I'm gonna let these creatures out into the wild, and basically creating this dinosaur inhabited world where multiple millions of people are probably gonna die. It's like, and it's because everyone has their back turned to her, and she just hits the button. It's like, come on, like, you have there's better ways to do this. And I 100% think it was the screenplay and the writing and the script than the director, because I think he did the best that he could with it, and Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard did the best they could with it too. So unless you're just a big Jurassic World fan and a big dinosaur fan, this is a pass. In retrospect, at first I liked it better than the first one, and I look back, I'm like, no, the first one was better. The first Jurassic World, with everything being set up and then destroying the island, but everyone kind of saving, it was just much better. Even if the chemistry's better, because right now, like in the first movie, Pratt and Howard do not have great chemistry. They're supposed to be this, getting this love interest, and you just don't know it. They don't sell it. This one's much better. You could definitely see if they're together, and of course they get back together at the end. It's better. The first movie is just overall a better movie than this one. So this is a pass unless you're just a big Jurassic World fan. So for my last movie that I saw this month, it would be Sicario: Day of the Soldado. Of course, this is a movie that I've been waiting for a long time. I say long because the last one came out in 2015, but we went and saw it, my dad and I, and we loved it, fell in love with it. The way it was shot, the actual story. And if you haven't seen that, please go see Sicario 1. It's a dark movie, very gritty. The second one is darker. It's pretty impressive how they could get darker. They try to recreate some things. There's a scene or two where nothing's ever going to be the same as that bridge scene from the first one, where they're trying to cross back into the border and they get stuck in traffic, and those kids are hunting down the FBI agents and just the cars on the highway, and they gun all the kids down, and then they're just dead, and they drive off, and it's like, this is normal. It's a pretty rough scene. They try to get that back a little bit especially towards the end of this movie, which I'll try to avoid some spoilers as best I can. There's an action sequence at the end where they try to kind of recreate that a little bit, but nothing's ever going to equal that. I think they do their best of letting that original scene stay. Like, that is the crown jewel scene for them, or one of them, and they're just going to leave it there and just move on and do other things. So I think they try to recreate it a little bit, but not enough to where it would tarn it. It would be like, well, they tried to do like they did in the original. So I think it was different enough that it was good. The story's really good, especially the explanation. Of course, the trailer is kind of weird because it's trying to start a war with everybody, and we're gonna go. The way they go about it in the movies, I think, better than the trailer sells it. As weird as that sounds, but Benicio del Toro, this is the movie for him. This role that he does in this movie is just perfect. You couldn't have anyone else play this role, and it's great. He's great again in this movie. Of course, this is the summer of Brolin, and it's no exception in this movie. This guy's great. It's a perfect role for him. It actually allows him to be more grounded, as weird as it is, because it's this high-op, military movie. It allows him to be more grounded because he was playing Thanos and Cable. This is a grounded thing for him to do. And he does great. Again, a great part in this movie. the girl that is basically the focal point of the movie. I think she's really good. She's especially compared to Jurassic World. She's so much better. They actually give her some character at the beginning when they introduce her, and you understand that this girl, she's ready to fight. Like she's gonna fuck someone up given the chance. And to see her go through all these emotion swings throughout the movie, and the big finish, and the ending, and seeing where she is, and it's just, I think she's one of the better kids you've seen, especially in a movie like this. It's so dark. I don't think they could have picked really anybody better. So kudos to you, whoever you are, the actress. You did such a good job. Overall, this movie was not as good as the original. I think a big part of the original is that original kind of shock of being in Mexico and seeing like this is the real, this is what happens just across the border from us. And then, of course, the big focal point of the original is the night vision scene at the end, which is so unique because of the night vision over the camera. It was incredible to see that on screen, and they do it here at the beginning, and then they cut it, which I think is a good call. I think it's kind of saying like, hey, yeah, here's our little night vision scene, but this isn't going to be our big. You've already seen this, so we're going to move on to something else. I think it's really well done. As kind of an homage to the first movie, but also saying we're going to build on that. So I do think it's slightly below the original because of how good the original was. But this is a must-watch for this month, I think. If you're any kind of action fan, go see it. Because I know it just came out, so please go see it. If you like any kind of cartel, like if you're a big fan of Narcos and like the cartel stuff, go see it. It's such an interesting take on that scene that I would just highly recommend going to see that. All right, let me take a quick drink here, and I will pull up my top 10 list so far. So I have this as of 7/3, which was yesterday, the day. So I'm recording this on the 4th of July. So happy 4th of July if you're in America. I wrote this down as far as I went back and looked at my entire movie history that I've seen. This is just stuff I've seen. There's going to be probably some exceptions that you think would be in the top 5 or something. I just never saw them. Maybe stuff's ranked lower or whatnot. It's kind of all your preference at this point. Of course, this is personal preference, just stuff I saw. I'm going to start with a couple honorable mentions. So I have Blockers and Tomb Raider, which I covered in my last video. I think they were just, I'm ranking some things that I'm like, these movies would have snuck in if, this one movie wasn't up there. So I really enjoyed them. I kind of went more in depth on them in the last video. And then my third honorable mention is Den of Thieves. This is a movie that came out in February, the end of January, I think. It's another one of these high military movies, real action movies. Has Gerard Butler in it. So you can already kind of tell what kind of movie it is. I loved it. It's probably my second favorite of that style of movie behind Sicario this year. It was so well done. The ending stretch of the fight in the street or on the I think because they're in Los Angeles, so it's like on this curve, like a highway curve almost, and all the traffic stopped, and one dude busts out like a light machine gun and like props it up on a car and starts shooting through the car, and seeing that kind of action on such a ground level of like, well, this happens in like a neighborhood is really well shot, and it like really. And this is one of the only movies I think that really gets the sound of guns correctly, because it is fucking loud. Every gunshot is so loud, but it really, that's how loud guns are. A lot of these movies, they shoot and they mute it down because they want you to hear, or, it just sounds like gunfire, and you really get kind of used to the way gunfire sounds. And this movie says, no, this is how loud this gun actually sounds, and it's fucking loud. And in a theater, it's like, geez, but that's what they sound like. I really like the movie. If you're any kind of action movie guy, go see it. Den of Thieves is great. Number 10 was Solo. Of course, covered it last video. It was, I think it was one of the better Star Wars movies. I think it doesn't get enough credit. It just got massively shit on by all the Star Wars elitists, like I said, like I talked about in my last one. and I feel bad for them because they really put out a good product, and it was good enough to be my top 10. Now it'll probably get bumped just because it is number 10 here at the halfway point. It will probably get bumped, but that just comes with the territory, so I can't really do much about that. But I definitely was deserving of making my top 10 list so far of this year. Number 9 is Black Panther. Like I said in my last video, I thought it was a good solo Marvel movie, but it's not this world-changing, awe-inspiring movie. It wasn't to me. Now, it could be to some people. Again, personal opinion. It wasn't to me. I enjoyed the movie. I made my top 10. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but it wasn't this 99 or 97% Rotten Tomatoes score. It wasn't. And the people that see that were just trying to... I think it wasn't as good of a movie as Infinity War was, and Infinity War got an 82% or whatever, which I think was unfair. So I just, I think the critics really were trying to get good press on themselves by rating this movie highly. Which, hey, I mean, you got to do what you got to do for business, but it was a number 9, and so it might end up getting bumped, depending on what goes on the rest of the year. Which there's a lot of stuff the rest of the year, so I'm excited. Number 8 was Upgrade. Of course, I just covered it in this video. I liked it better. I mean, I liked Upgrade better than Black Panther and Solo. The way I think the cinematography was really good, especially with it being such a low budget film. I thought they did so much with what they had that it had to make my top 10 list. Number 7 was Ready Player One. Of course, covered it last video. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Of course, it's a lot of it's the gamer geek in me that really liked the video and seeing, especially the big fight at the end of the open field and seeing, the Megazord or the Mega Dyna that the villain's controlling, and then have Gundam fighters, like a kid transforms into Gundam fighters and comes in with the Batmobile and shit. Like, that shit just hit all the buttons for me. So that's gonna help that movie. Maybe overall it wasn't as good as a movie as some of these, but just the nostalgia factor personally was high enough to put it at number 7 for me. Number 6 was Incredibles 2. I had actually forgot about this when I was putting this list together, so I had to throw it in, and I looked at my list that I already had, which I think Den of Thieves was number 10, so everything else was moved up one, and I'm like, I looked at what I liked more than this, and so I had to throw it in at number 6 because of what's coming. Again, I think the best sequel they can make for The Incredibles, and I was a huge fan of it. So I can't really say anything negative about the movie. Number 5 is Sicario 2. I really enjoyed it. Like I just talked about, it's the best sequel. Again, kind of like The Incredibles, this is the best sequel they could make for this movie, and it sets up so well for a third movie, which I hope to God happens, and it better not take 3 years because I'm so ready to see part 3 to this. Number 4 was Deadpool 2. Covered it last video. Such a good sequel to... I like how I had my 3 sequels are right there in the middle. And those are I think Deadpool 2 actually could have been a little bit better, but they did such a good job of balancing, not playing off the old stuff while keeping the charm of the original, that the balance was so good that it had to be up there. Number 3 was A Quiet Place. Of course, I'm not a horror, like I said in my last one, I'm not a horror movie guy, and this movie was just so good. And I think it helped that I saw it in a theater, so I had that theater experience of what that movie was supposed to be. That it really added to... I think it would have been lower if I would have seen it at home or something. It probably might have still made my top 10, but it wouldn't have been this high without the theater experience. So personally, if you haven't seen the movie and you see it at home, it might not have that same experience. But trust me, seeing it in a theater... if there's ever a replay of the movie, like a double feature, maybe when the second one comes out, go see it in a theater, man. It's unreal to see it there, and I loved it. The ending was so good of them either setting up a sequel or just kind of leaving it as is. Was well done. That it had to be in my top 3. Number 2 I just talked about, which is American Animals. The way that this is shot and the information that you gain from these people is just incredible. Seeing how these real people are mixing in their words with the actors playing them, and seeing everything play out the way that these guys have actually saw it and how like the victims actually saw it is so different, I think, because a lot of it's hearsay, especially for a documentary about a crime. They don't ever interview the people that were actually the criminals, and knowing why they did what they did, or seeing, or knowing the actual events of what happened, because you're just hearing it from one person. You're hearing, like, there's one aspect where they're actually stealing the stuff, where there's 3 people in the room, and you hear from all 3 people, including the victim. It's probably the most accurate you could get of what actually happened. It's just, in the ending of it, essentially, where they humanize these people, but they don't make you sympathize for them. They make you say, this was a choice this person made, and it's a bad choice, and they paid for it. They're learning from it now, but they paid for that choice, and it was a terrible choice. And them realizing that, you can see it in their face, I think was really good, and something I thought was different for a documentary, especially seeing it in a theater and having no clue what it was going to be. I loved it. I loved every part of it. And of course, number one, you could probably tell once I talked about it a little bit earlier, it was Infinity War. It being the culmination movie. The biggest thing is I think I talked about this in my last, when I actually went over it for my April movies. It being a culmination of 19 movies worth of, and 10 years of movies, and being so different, and it not disappointing is unheard of. I mean, it is unheard of because it's never been done. Nothing's ever taken this long, and this interconnected universe of building these 18, 19 movies, and all having them lead to all their paths leading to one movie, and that movie being good and being, representative of all of these movies before, and throwing it into one 2.5 hour movie and it being phenomenal, has to be number one. It'll probably be minimum top 3 for the year, and it might stay at number 1. For me personally, I saw the movie 4 times. I was willing to pay, because I have that subscription service, I was willing to pay 3 times to go see this movie. Like, that's, especially for me who is just now starting to become a movie buff, that's unheard of. I mean, I just love the movie that much, and I wanted to go see it all the time when it was out, that I can't not be number 1. So there you have it. Those are my June movie thoughts and my top 10 for this year so far. If you've made it this far, thank you again so much for being patient and hearing all my thoughts about everything. For my wrestling fans, of course, this is kind of what has all the attention on my channel right now, is my wrestling podcast. You guys are in for a treat. Starting, I guess, next week, because I leave on vacation for 4th of July. That G1 special show in San Francisco, of course, airs on Saturday. I hope to get home Sunday night, watch it Sunday night, record a video Monday morning. And so we'll have, my next episode will be my G1 San Francisco review and thoughts, and maybe go into the storylines that are brought from it. Of course, we have no idea how the actual event's going to go, but it's going to be such a good event that I'm really looking forward to it. And then, we'll do that, and then I have 2 videos planned for release at some point, probably the next couple months. Of course, once we get to August, I'll release my July movies, which there'll be quite a few, because there's a lot of stuff coming out in July. And then I do have a special video planned for my thoughts on as a little tease to the title. It's why Fortnite, my thoughts on why Fortnite will fail, but will make esports better. And that will go more in depth about their prize pool and the actual game of Fortnite itself. But so that's a little tease of what's to come. But for the rest of the month of July and August, it's really, my main focus is going to be these smaller videos. They're not going to be as long. Of every G1 show, I'm going to watch every G1 match, and then we're going to put a video out as fast as I possibly can, of these different nights and the matches and the reviews, and go point totals and see where everyone's at and what's shaking up and what's looking good and what storylines are coming out of it. So I will be going over every night at the G1. So if you're a G1, if you're into the New Japan G1 and you maybe can't watch all the shows, I will be doing reviews for every show. So I'm gonna be busy here these next month and a half, but I'm looking forward to it. So again, thank you so much for watching, and all my wrestling fans, stay tuned, because that's what's on the plate for the next month or so. So again, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.